think the favorite aspect of my day is just the knowledge. You come to work and it's always something different. Helicopters flying, planes flying, bullets, artillery, mortars, you name it, it's always something different. We have archaeological digs going on right now. It's neat to see all the history that's behind Chaffee as well.
Welcome to Drill Weekend with the Arkansas Army National Guard. I'm your host, Sergeant First Class Jim Houston. The Arkansas Army National Guard has deployed soldiers from Texas to Europe to the Middle East in 2023, and for many soldiers, this will be their first deployment. Knowing what benefits you and your family have earned while on active duty is why attending the Yellow Ribbon Reintegration Program is important for you and the family that supports you. In this episode, we'll talk to Master Sergeant Andre Chatry, the Yellow Ribbon Reintegration Program Coordinator for the Arkansas Army National Guard. We'll travel to Rogers, Arkansas for the 9/11 Ruck March and talk to Sergeant First Class Luis Mendez and Sergeant Carlos Alvarez about creating a community event that brings the city together to remember 9/11. And we'll speak with Kylea Andrews, the Suicide Prevention Program Coordinator for the Arkansas Army National Guard, about the ACE-SI course, or Ask, Care, Escort, Suicide Intervention course. Then we'll stop by Fort Chaffee Range Control for an end-of-summer safety brief. Let's get to it.
Great job, everyone. Looks like everyone passed the ACFT. We have coffee and bagels and juice, so dig in while we wait for everyone to get back.
These look good.
Hold on there, warrior. Don't eat me.
What?
I'm a poppy seed bagel.
So?
Eating foods that contain poppy seeds may lead to false positives for codeine or morphine.
Oh well, drill's over. It'll be fine.
Really? It still feels a little early for a Sunday.
Oh good, everybody's here.
Today our unit will be drug tested for illegal substance use.
Thank you, poppy seed bagel.
If you're taking supplements or consuming certain foods for health reasons or working out, go to Operation Supplement Safety at opss.org. There you'll find information on DoD prohibited dietary supplement ingredients and other health information for diet and exercise. How is my French accent?
That was a French accent?
Was that it?
I think that's
You're listening to Drill Weekend with the Arkansas Army National Guard. The Yellow Ribbon Reintegration Program was established under the National Defense Authorization Act of 2008 as a means to assist National Guard and Reserve soldiers in their transition from their civilian life to active duty military and back again. The program provides the information and contacts family and soldiers need to access resources during deployments and obtain the benefits they've earned when they return to their civilian careers. I spoke with Master Sergeant Andre Chatry, the Yellow Ribbon Coordinator for the Arkansas Army National Guard at Building 7301, for his insights after more than 7 years working with the program. What does the Yellow Ribbon Program do for soldiers and their families? Why is it important for the National Guard?
Well, the mission for the Yellow Ribbon is to assist deploying service members, their families, designated individuals, basically the people that are going to be navigating the soldiers' day-to-day affairs in their absence. It connects them to all their benefits and resources that they're going to need and that they've earned by their service, but that they're going to need during the deployment life cycle.
How has it changed since when you started to what we have today?
The resources are always advancing. More programs are being available to soldiers and their families. A lot more benefits are coming up. But a lot of times, a lot of the big changes that we saw was really on how we conduct an event. You know, COVID showed us that. We moved from in-person events to virtual events and then back to in-person, and it allowed us to understand how to reach our audiences in different ways and still keep the information and resources there pertinent.
What was life like for Guardsmen before the Yellow Ribbon Program, and what was the need that spurred it into creation? What came about that said, hey, we need this program, we need to develop something like this? Where did it come from?
National Guard, unlike its active duty counterpart, we don't live on post. We don't have those resources available to us or readily available to us. So what ends up happening is people didn't know what their entitlements were, their resources. If there was something broke down or there was a problem in the household while the soldier was deployed, nobody knew where to go. They didn't know what their TRICARE benefits were. They didn't know that there was soldier family readiness experts out there to be able to help them with just regular life-to-life or day-to-day problems. I remember back for me, 2001, when I deployed to Bosnia, we just ended up talking to a few people here and there. It would be in like a school auditorium or in the armory. And now, today, we provide an environment that's conducive with learning. It's comfortable. We provide the meal. We try to compensate soldiers and their families that have to come from a long distance. And it gets all those resources in one place at one time. So then everybody gets to actually connect face to face and shake hands, get pamphlets, and really just know, hey, this is what I'm going to need during the deployment.
What are some of the takeaways that you want soldiers to have when their families come to a Yellow Ribbon Program? Are there certain benefits you want to nail down and make sure that they walk away with, that they're not going to forget or not take advantage of when their soldier is deployed or when they return?
So those benefits are going to be dependent on what Yellow Ribbon event during the deployment life cycle that they're attending. So there's 5 events for the deploying unit. There's the pre, which introduces them to their benefits and gets that FaceTime and all that good stuff. In that case, for a pre, I'd want soldiers to take away, TRICARE. How are we going to utilize it properly and what is or isn't available to them? The VA, I like to have the VA there because the VA is really good at saying, if this happens to you or something occurs, an injury, something to that effect, have it annotated because at the end of your career, it's going to matter. So they sort of tell them up front, if you get hurt or whatever happens while you're downrange or deployed, things that you should have annotated. Personal financial counselor, absolutely amazing, because we know in our state and economically, we have a lot of soldiers that this is going to be a lot better money for them deploying than their civilian job. So they're going to have to know that this isn't permanent money, but how to best make that money work for them in the time that they're earning it. Personal financial counseling is great on that. And really the big thing is those soldier family readiness specialists that are there in each region and for each unit. That's going to be that point of contact that, hey, I have a problem at the house or an issue has come up. That's who the family member designated individual gets to call, and they're going to help and to the best of their ability. So those are really some big takeaways. We even provide military family life counselors there, military one source. There's all kinds of resources there. I have the influx there just for the fact that first-time deployer, their family member, their mom, dad, whoever, their spouse, designated individual could be like, I'm really kind of stressed about this. It's really unknown. I'm dealing with a lot of anxiety, and they get to talk to that person right then and there. We have JAG there. We have so many things to be able to answer those questions before it becomes a problem during the deployment.
The deployed soldier has to attend the Yellow Ribbon Program, but what would you say to encourage that family member that may be on the shelf about whether or not they want to attend the program with their loved one, maybe a child care concern or maybe they don't think that there's a benefit that they would need to be there? What would you say to encourage a family member to attend the meeting?
I would encourage them because, again, even if they're a veteran deployer and the family members are used to a deployment, there's always more benefits out there. When the budget affords, there's child care there. We have the National Guard Child and Youth that handles resiliency and activities for the kids ages 6 on up. And we also get federally recognized, background checked child care for 0 to 5s. So if it's a matter of like children or something like that, you'll be able to pay attention, and your children will still be well taken care of.
Any question I didn't ask that you'd like to share about the Yellow Ribbon Program or an anecdote?
Actually, more so about describing the rest of the cycles. I described about the pre, but then there's the during event, and the during event is specifically for the family members. So we try to get them all back together, reconnect them, making sure that if there's any issues, we can address them. We also help them sort of understand what reintegration is going to look like. So we address current problem solve through that, and what's it going to look like when the service member gets home. After the deployment, about 45 to 60 days after the deployment, we come back and we do our post-1 event. And that's reacquainting. Now that you have deployed, these are your benefits, i.e. we're going back to the VA. Some people didn't have VA benefits when they deployed. Now that they've come back, they do. And so that's explained to them. We explain how long their TRICARE is going to last. They just reestablish that contact, personal financial counselors, SFRS, all those other aforementioned programs. Then we do a 90-day post-2 event, which really gears more towards the actual reintegration. We're less about benefits and more about helping somebody. We have something for everybody. Single soldiers, married soldiers, whatever. Reconnection, 5 love languages. We have Red Cross brings in different kind of workshops. We have establishing better employment. Again, I talked about that money. Now, you know what? I'm going to have to work 2 or 3 jobs to make the paycheck that I was making before. So we get people that can help with resumes and help, that are recruiting for better jobs for a soldier that's going to offer them better pay. And that's really what that post-2 event is all about. Then you have the post-3, which is between the full-time unit staff and MedCom, and it's coordinating that post-deployment health assessment type deal.
For more information about the resources you've earned, go to the website yellowribbon.mil. According to the Department of Defense, as of July 2023, 333,874 military service members were born after 9/11 and do not have memories of that day. With that in mind, Sergeant First Class Luis Mendez and Sergeant Carlos Alvarez, National Guard recruiters in Rogers, Arkansas, organized the Never Forget 9/11 Ruck March with the Rogers Fire and Police Departments as a way to reach out to their surrounding community and remember 9/11 in a very Army way, rucking 12 miles with a 35-pound backpack.
So what gave you the idea to do a community event like this, just in general?
Well, the idea stemmed from, September 11th, right? I think we need to remember and never forget. And then it's a great way to bring the community together. And not only that, but they see us here at this location and they just see a building. So the thing we wanted to do is we wanted to show the community that, hey, we are the Arkansas Army National Guard, we are local, this is where we're at, and bring the community together as one to, remember and embrace September 11th.
What's one of the things we do the most being in the Army? Are rucks. So we figured we try to incorporate something where we can put in a little bit of us, the Army, and at the same time do an event for the first responders that also had a great impact on that day for the community.
We will never know the sacrifice, the burden that the firefighters, the first responders carry that day, those that sacrifice, the ultimate sacrifice. Now, for us to do a ruck, to carry 45 pounds, it's not what they were burdened with, but it is a weight on our shoulders that we could remember and reflect on, that they burden themselves with a lot more, which is the ultimate sacrifice, and that's why we chose to ruck.
Now, was this in conjunction with the bike ride as well, or is that a separate event?
Well, the idea started with a September 11th memorial ruck, but as we drew closer to the date, we realized like that not everybody is able to ruck 45, 35 pounds. So what we want to incorporate is, so as we, the date drew closer, what we wanted to incorporate was, you know, something where everybody else that can ruck is able to participate. Therefore, we decided to open it up to walkers, runners, and even bikers. That way, we include everybody.
One of the many community stories that came out of the 9/11 Ruck March was with the Rogers High School soccer team.
What was the feedback from the coaches at the high school?
Well, so the coaches, they also said the whole purpose or reason of encouraging his soccer team to come here is because he wants to unite them. Not only on the field, but off the field. And he wants to develop them as leaders. So he encouraged his soccer players to, you know, cheer on the other individuals and to motivate, you know, the individuals participating in this event. And, you know, that was awesome.
How do you feel about the turnout you got?
Oh, I think it was awesome turnout. I think it was awesome event. A lot of smiles, a lot of laughter, a lot of people just embracing the memorial ruck, and then I mean everybody put their best effort. So it was awesome.
2 Arkansas Army National Guardsmen that participated in the Ruck March were OCS candidates Catherine Folkman and Lauren Lee. I asked them what inspired them most on the 9/11 Ruck March.
I mean, I wasn't there, you know, I hadn't enlisted at that time, so it's just imagining what people had to go through to defend against the 9/11 attack and how lives were changed, and knowing that, you know, not only do you do ruck marches in Army training, but in actual operations, you know, what may have consisted of those operations. It's wild to think about how much has happened to protect the way of life that we have now.
But I also think it's really important to kind of come here and put forth a little bit of time to kind of think about and really just remember what did happen and who laid their life down and why we have what we have for today to actually be able to do what we want to do, to be able to come here to do this. It's
exactly.
Because of them. So
exactly.
It's really important. Kind of like we're out there with this, and he saw that people were stopping and asking, you know, what's this, what's going on, and we were able to tell them, and it just kind of brings that memory back up, and people can always be reminded and kind of refresh in their brain that, oh yeah, this did happen, and people, you know, dedicate their time and their service to do this sort of thing.
So you're going to come out here again next year? I mean, what
Definitely.
Do you like about the event?
Definitely.
Oh yeah, this is fun. This is a great time. The weather is perfect.
The weather was
a good
perfect.
Time. Just being able to actually connect with my battle buddies over here. There was a few more people of us that we all drill together, and we're not in a drill setting, and so that's really nice to actually just kind of hang out and do a ruck march and you know, actually experience time together where we're not trying to do stuff on the drill side. And that's really the only time we ever get to see each other, and you know, getting to do this is a nicer environment.
Have you heard any feedback yet from the community about the event?
Oh, absolutely. Everybody loved it, and everybody wants to do it again. They're asking, is this going to be a yearly event? And absolutely it is. We're going to grow it. We're going to reach out to more community members, and you know, hopefully by next year we could double the amount of people that are going to show up.
For more information on the next 9/11 Ruck March, you can contact the Rogers Army National Guard Recruiting Office at 479-445-8122. We're back in the conference room in Building 7301 at the Joint Service Support Building, speaking with Kylea Andrews, the Suicide Prevention Coordinator for the Arkansas National Guard. Now, as I understand it, there's going to be a transition from the ASSIST training to the ACE-SI training, the Ask Care Escort Suicide Intervention training. So tell me, Kylea, how is it, explain the difference. What will a soldier be walking into when they take the ACE-SI training?
So this training really aims to empower soldiers to recognize mental health warnings and risk factors, how to ask someone if they are planning on killing themselves. If they say yes, how to help care for them, where they can get them to get the help that they need.
So this training in general, I mean, a lot of it's, I don't want to call it touchy-feely, but how does it make you a better soldier?
So this training really aims to implement some cohesion between the Army values and suicide prevention. So we touch on all of the Army values, but some of the examples would be loyalty, personal courage, and selfless service. It takes a lot of personal courage to ask someone if they're planning on killing themselves, or personal courage to reach out for help if you're struggling. Selfless service, helping your fellow soldier, and loyalty is this is your family. You should be there for them during these hard times.
So I remember we sent 2 soldiers over to do the assist training fairly recently, and one of them didn't want to do it because it was going to take them away from training during drill. With that in mind, what is the commitment that a soldier is going to have for the ASSI training?
It's about 6 to 8 hours, depending on how the conversation goes.
I'm assuming it's still in civilian clothes, and I remember assist training was pretty rough emotionally. I don't want to get too descriptive about it, but it was some interesting training. The ASSI training, explain what skills it gives a soldier in handling a crisis event.
It helps them give awareness of how they should be having this conversation. As we discussed, it should be very direct, but also helps with empathy. That's one of the things that we touch on during the training, how you can active listen during this conversation, make someone feel more comfortable during this conversation. It gives you the skills for, if they say yes, they are planning on killing themselves, how you can care for them. And it also helps you identify the resources you have that you can reach out to give these people the help they need.
Just reinforcing what Kylea said, they have the ability and they feel empowered to be able to recognize those risk factors. They can identify them. They can identify warning signs. And most importantly, they're empowered and encouraged to ask that question. It's very uncomfortable and it's awkward. And they'll have the ability to do that. And, just like with it being assist, they're ready, willing, and able to assist somebody that's considering suicide.
If a unit wanted to reach out to y'all and get this scheduled, this type of training scheduled for drill, how would they do that?
They could contact me. My extension is 4073.
This summer was the hottest on record for the planet and the 9th hottest summer in Arkansas, with 15 days in triple digits. And if you had annual training at Fort Chaffee, you know what those 15 days were like. I stopped by Range Control at Fort Chaffee and asked Sergeant First Class Jonathan Wagley and Sergeant First Class Dan Bramsfield for an end-of-summer safety brief. I'm at Range Control on Fort Chaffee in the briefing room speaking with Sergeant
First Class Jonathan Wagley.
Sergeant First Class Daniel Ramsfield. I'm the Range Ops NCOIC.
And tell me, how has the summer gone? I'm assuming all the annual training has come to an end?
We actually have one more unit coming in, an engineer unit, to do annual training. It's a reserve engineer unit from Texas, actually. But most of the trainings come to an end. It was in a short busy. So last year we had 92,000 people, or 91,000 people come here to train, and so far this year, since October, we've had 93,000 people.
Is that a fairly typical year for y'all?
Yes, from my knowledge, yes, it's a pretty typical year. We stay pretty steady all summer long.
So as far as safety goes, has it been a good year?
There has been an increase in heat casualties. I don't know if it's because the soldiers aren't hydrating enough, or there's not enough emphasis put on it, but there has been an increase in heat casualties. As you know, Fort Chaffee is probably the hottest place on earth, especially in the summer. So,
what have units been doing to mitigate those conditions as far as the heat casualty? Usually there's, the ice blankets and cold water, but has anything new been added to the list?
I think with the increase of air conditioning in pretty much every tactical vehicle, that's helped out a lot, so they can get them out of the heat into the AC quickly. And we actually have a new medic evac brief where we brief them on, hey, this is what you need to do right away if someone's going down because of heat. Get them in an ambulance, get them, treated and all that.
And so far, I mean, the medics that we've encountered with these units, they've been on top of it. As soon as someone starts looking like they're about to go down or something like that, they'll pull them into the medic tent, and if they need an IV, they'll go ahead and give them an IV. So the medics have been outstanding this year.
Has there been anything else other than the heat that is pretty typical for Fort Chaffee?
A few vehicle accidents, but they're minor, just fender benders, no injuries for the most part. Mostly it's the heat that people go down from.
We've had a couple brown recluse bites, that's typical around here. You normally see those every year in the summer. People just don't understand that they're out here or what they do or what they can cause. So they get bit by those and then they call us. So we've had a couple of those this year.
What about snakes and bears?
So snakes, a lot of sightings of snakes this year. There's an increase in snakes this year for whatever reasons, but just sightings, no bites that we've heard of. We did have a unit come in here, and the Sergeant First Class was all freaked out, and he was like, y'all didn't tell me you had scorpions out here. And we're like, we said we have everything out here. So just so people are aware, there are scorpions at Fort Chaffee.
Yeah, so. And one of the things I can say that we've been mitigating, we have what's called a soldier card. So we hand them out to the units when they first get here and give them their safety brief. It's got pictures of all the animals and what they look like, so they can kind of keep an eye out for those animals so they can be aware of actually what they look like, and it helps out a lot. That way they know exactly what they're looking for and to watch out for.
What has been unusual for this year as opposed to previous years?
This year, it was just an increased number of people in the month of June. June was an exceptionally hot month this year, and there was an increased number of people here with the XCTC. There was around close to 6,000 people here. So that being very hot, increased number of people, there was more sightings of animals, there was more heat casualties, and so on and so forth. And the XCTC had units from all over the country, some from like further north, further east. So it's a little cooler over there. So they came here, and it was just a little bit drastic for them, bit of a culture shock, you'd say, or weather shock.
We've had a pretty busy, at least around the country, we've had a pretty busy fire season. Tell me about the hazards here at Fort Chaffee as far as fires are concerned.
Some of the hazards that we encounter is some of the ammunition that gets fired here on Chaffee are used at night. So there are tracer rounds, which light up a little small ball of flame when they shoot. So that with the grass being really dead, it really catches that grass, and that's when the fire hazards are really high, we limit that. So we tell them this can't not be shot. So we will control that, mitigate that by restricting certain ammunition and pyrotechnics. That way it does not cause a fire. We've also recently purchased some flappers for the units to draw out. That way they can try to put out their own fire if they see a fire, if it's safe for them to do so. That way, as soon as the fire gets started, they can go downrange, put it out, and we still call the fire department, and they will go out and assess it to see if they need to put water on it and stuff like that. So we're doing the best that we can to try to prevent fires from spreading as soon as possible.
There's over 90 miles of fire break on Fort Chaffee as well. Our DPW yearly takes care of those fire breaks, takes all the fuels out of them and fixes that. And our fire department is phenomenal at responding to wildland fires. So they do a really good job. They 99.99% of the time will keep it all contained where it needs to be. So.
And unexploded ordnance, that's a major hazard out here, or just only in certain areas?
So mainly just in the surface cleared area. We haven't had anybody, thank goodness, actually have any go off on them. There's been several found over the years, and we just ask people, if you find them, continue training, mark it, stay away from it, and let us know, and we'll go verify, and we'll call EOD from the Air Force in Little Rock, unfortunately, to come blow it. It takes a while, but we had one unit, they found 32 different UXOs in 1 week, and we were able to take care of all those at once. So it was a good long night for us.
As you read off the safety brief, and of course all of it is important, are there any areas of it that y'all emphasize?
I always emphasize the UXOs because that's something that can kill them right away if they're not paying attention to it. Even though we haven't had anybody hurt yet, we don't want anybody ever get hurt with them. And we had ordnance from World War II all through the Cold War used out here that's still out there.
I know the one thing that I always like to emphasize is communication. Communication is a big key. When they tell us that they're going out, that's how we track people. So I really focus on communication. That way we know when they're going out, where they're going to be, how many people's out there, and they give us hourly radio checks when they occupy. That way we can make sure they're safe and not moving back and forth, because we control their routes to make sure, because there's certain routes that they can't go when certain events are happening, say artillery, or they can't cross under a certain path because due to artillery. So we have to tell them the certain path that they have to go. So communication is a big key with me.
Recently, the Department of Defense identified the Fort Chaffee Joint Maneuver Training Center as a Level 1 training site, one of only 5 Level 1 training sites in the National Guard. Colonel David Givens, Fort Chaffee Joint Maneuver Training Center commander, said, "This increase in classification solidifies the national reputation of Fort Chaffee as a premier joint collective training center." Explain to me the dynamics here at Fort Chaffee. I understand that you have every branch of service here training at any given time?
Yes, we have every branch of the U.S. military comes out here to train except for Space Force so far, but I'm sure we'll see them in the future. We have the Navy SEALs that train out here. We have lots of law enforcement that trains here, from local law enforcement all the way to federal law enforcement. So the dynamic is there for them to do whatever they need to. And Air Force likes to come here and use our ranges. They even say they're better than most ranges they've been to, even on any Army post. So that's a good thing. If Air Force is saying we look good, we have a lot of Marine Corps anti-tank units come here to train because they're actually able to shoot their anti-tank weapons here at Fort Chaffee, because we have an impact area that's 6,000 acres.
And one of the things that I always like is we look at units like engineering units. We look at them as an asset to us. So we use them, and it gets them training as well. So if we have certain projects that need to be done, like our fire breaks, we need help on our fire breaks, we will send the engineer units out there, we will request their assistance, and they will do our fire breaks for us or do certain projects for us to help better the post. And that gets them training and makes Chaffee better as well.
Say, for example, I was a soldier that's never been to Fort Chaffee before. What advice would you give that soldier?
Prepare for the heat. The heat is a big thing, and if you're not prepared for it, it will come up and bite you.
Yeah, that's what I'd say too. Prepare for the weather. It can be hot one minute, raining the next, and it'll get hot again. It's really hot in the summer. Sometimes in the wintertime, it's unforgiving as well. We get ice storms here. But the heat is what really hurts the soldiers out here. Say prepare for it and have fun, because you will not get better training anywhere else than here at Fort Chaffee.
At Fort Chaffee, has there been any renovations that have changed the capabilities of the base as far as training goes?
So we've been doing a lot of renovations, trying to slowly here and there. I know on range, was it 90 that we've dug into the berm a little bit so we can drive a vehicle up to there. That way they can do mounted shoots with that, machine guns. And we also have a range 83. It's IPVC lane. The infantry units have loved that. That's something that it's hard to come by in this area. So us adding that has added that capability for units that are closer here instead of them having to travel farther to go to that.
Something Colonel Gibbons always promotes about Fort Chaffee is the complexity, the level of complexity of the training that y'all can have here at Fort Chaffee. Can you explain some of that? What does he mean by that?
So we can train air, land, and sea here on Fort Chaffee. So we have the only bridging sites across the major river in the United States. So we have 4 of those. The engineer units can do their bridging operations, and they can also pair it with artillery units or infantry units to cross the bridges and infill to the other side. And we also have air. We have range 87, which is our aerial gunnery range, where they can do gunnery and bombing out there. And artillery, that's a big one. There's not very many posts where you can actually shoot rocket artillery, where Fort Chaffee has that capability to shoot rocket artillery. And then we'll shift a little bit from the ranges. We go back to cantonment. We actually have one of the nicest ACFT facilities in our entire region. Camp Robinson has the same same ACFT facility as well, but we have 32 lanes, and we can set up all 32 lanes, and multiple units can take the ACFT. A whole battalion can take the ACFT at once. So that's some of the different capabilities we have and the complexity that we have.
So for example, a unit coming in from Georgia can come in and do their annual training, their live fire, and then also knock out their ACFT for the year as well. Is that?
Absolutely. That's what most units do. They start out in cantonment for the first few days. They'll knock out their ACFT, and then they'll pack everything up and they'll head out to the ranges. And we have, complexity where basically anything the units ask for, we can provide. We actually have throw-out ranges as well. Like if they say, hey, we need targets at 50 meters, 60 meters, 70 meters, 80 meters, we can set that up for them with mechanical pop-up ranges, and we also have a full-time safety officer who can develop their SDZs for them to make sure nobody gets shot on accident, and we can build their training for how they need their training to be.
So we talked a little bit offline. I asked if a division level unit could come here and train, and we don't have the housing here at Fort Chaffee, but how many soldiers can train here comfortably?
Well, like I said, we had almost 6,000. I believe a smaller division will have around 9,000 soldiers. So I think we probably could get a division here. They would have to bed down the field, though, of course. There's some ranges that couldn't shoot at the same time as other ranges. Most of our ranges can go hot at the same time.
But mostly in front of the barracks, there's normally large, what we call them parade fields. And if they wanted to sleep they have the AC tents. If they set those out, I think we could accommodate a division.
I know we can accommodate a brigade plus with no problems. Fort Chaffee was just recently named a level 1 training facility, and that basically means we are a backup as a mobilization site. So when active duty is mobilizing people, if they need to send soldiers somewhere to train to mobilize for a major conflict or whatnot, Fort Chaffee has been deemed appropriate to train people at. All we need is 1st Army to come and evaluate them, and then they can train here and then ship out the door to go to the Middle East or Europe or wherever they need to go.
Fort Chaffee has 41,000 acres of oak savannas, woodlands, and native prairies available for outdoor recreation. The base is a designated wildlife management area, and all Arkansas Game and Fish regulations apply. You'll also need a background investigation and permit, which can be obtained at the ArkansasNationalGuard.mil website under the Fort Chaffee Joint Maneuver Training Center tab. Also, another concern here, I guess at Range Control, is hunting on base for civilians. Is that happening? No.
We can talk about our sportsmen. So we have a sportsman's page that Arkansas sportsmen can log on there, and we have areas that are sportsmen's areas that are open or closed depending on what ranges are hot. Unfortunately, most sportsmen like to hunt on the weekends. Our ranges are going on the weekends, so there's a disconnect where they think, they're closing them for their buddies, which is not the case. We're only closing them for training. We want the sportsmen to come here. We want them to, utilize it. It's a beautiful area to hunt in and fish in and all that. I've actually found several people like to hike and bike on the roads at Fort Chaffee, and when the area is open for sportsmen, they're allowed to do that.
Sorry, I've been to ambush you with that off-topic question.
We get that a lot.
So it's myself and Staff Sergeant Jones. He's the full-time fire desk operator. We have access to the page that closes the areas. So we look at the training being conducted, and we look at what areas it will affect, where a round could go. So once we look at that, we close the areas off that are in danger or, could possibly be in danger. And then we leave everything else open that there's no training being conducted in those.
So if a civilian was interested in coming on base for hunting or recreation, how would they go about doing that?
So the website is fortchaffee.recaccess.com, and they can also contact the environmental branch, 479-484-2231. So they can call them, and they can get them the training they need or the access to Fort
And
Chaffee.
that information is on the Arkansas National Guard website as well?
Yes.
Okay.
And that system, so they're doing everything online now. So you'll get online at that website that he gave you previously, and you'll submit a background check. They'll do a background check in order to hunt on base, and they'll give you, when the background check comes in, they'll give you a vehicle permit and your permit to hunt, and then you got to pay for it, obviously. But yeah, it's a good program. And then when the areas are open, they get on their phone on the website and check into the area that they're going into, and then they are supposed to check out when they leave. That's how we can keep track of who's where for their safety.
On Fort Chaffee, are there any recreational areas you would recommend, or what appeals to most people when they come on base, hunting or otherwise?
I would probably say the fishing. A lot of people like to go up by the river crossing sites, by the Arkansas River, and fish the Arkansas River. I've seen lots of people doing that. Engineer Lake and Darby Lake have a good fishing as well. So we probably get a lot of fishermen in the summertime, like when ATs aren't going on. Hunting is always an issue, always a thing, because areas are closed a lot, and they have to go to an area where they may not scatter their deer. But fishing is available almost year round. So.
And earlier you mentioned that during drill weekends, of course, the base is closed for training from hunting, or is it just certain areas?
Just certain areas. So if there's no danger to anyone in that area from ammunition or bombs, the area will be open so they can go in there and they can hunt. So that we only close them if it's absolutely going to cause a safety risk to a hunter out there.
And did you mention biking and hiking? Is that right?
Yes, when the area is open, people are allowed to check in and go biking on our trails and hiking. I've found several people. I thought they were just out lost, but I was talking to them like, no, I'm just hiking, getting ready for this hike, and these people are out biking and stuff. So it's really good for off-road biking. So.
Tell me about working at Range Control. What is that like to go from like an M-Day status and then to get a job working at Range Control? What would a soldier expect?
So most of our soldiers are M-Day. I'm one of the lucky full-timers, and I came from the unit where it was we had a lot of unit stuff that we had to do throughout the month, whereas range control we focus mainly just on safety and controlling the units down range to make sure they're safe with each other and they can conduct training. We want them to have the best quality training they can get at Fort Chaffee. So working here at range control, I had no idea Fort Chaffee had the capabilities that it had until I got here. And that's the big thing. If someone needs to come train here, they can come just ask us anything. Hey, are we able to do this? Can we do this? Where's your, what range can we shoot machine guns on and all that? What can we do dynamic training on it? We have all those answers here because we're here and we're constantly doing this for units, is getting them the training that they need. But that's from a full-time perspective. I'm sure Sergeant Wagley has a M-Day perspective.
Yeah, being on an M-Day status, I've been on orders for a while now, but being M-Day status, so we have 4 teams that cover each weekend of the month. If we have a 5th weekend, then we do like a voluntary status. So hey, who wants to cover this weekend? And we'll get people to cover that weekend. We normally have roughly about 5 to 7 personnel per team. So those 5 to 7 personnel will cover 1st, 2nd, and 3rd shift for that weekend. And it's me being E7, I'm the team lead for my team. So I control the shifts and monitor the safety for that weekend that I have drill on. And it's been outstanding. If someone has something planned for a weekend, our soldiers have the capability to switch with another soldier on another weekend. That way we're still covered for the month, and it gives them the flexibility too. If something is important is planned, like let's say a college test or vacation or something with family, and I think that's really beneficial to the soldiers as well.
What kind of background would you expect a soldier to have to come to range control?
So it's basically MOS and material. Anybody can do it. We prefer combat arms just because they have a better understanding of it. But once you get to range control and you start seeing how the units move and interact with each other, you'll pick it up real quick. The biggest thing is getting on a computer and typing in numbers. That's the hardest part. But when you work at range control, you're doing your job every day.
And the one thing I can say that I really liked about range control is, especially E5, E4s and lower, it's beneficial to them because range control, we're always needing help throughout the summer. So we have capabilities of bringing those on ADOS, those E4s and E5s. I'm one of the lucky E7s that got brought in on ADOS, but E4s and E5s that are really wanting that ADOS money, and we have the capabilities of putting them on if we have training going on and need their assistance. It really helps us out, and it helps them out too.
Aside from learning, increasing your skills as a soldier, what do you like about working at Range Control? What is your favorite aspect of your day?
I think the favorite aspect of my day is just the knowledge. I mean, you come to work and it's always something different. I mean, there are days where it's going to be the same thing every day, but mostly it's always different. We have helicopters flying, planes flying, bullets, artillery, mortars. I mean, you name it. It's always something different. We have archaeological digs going on right now. So they tell us all kinds of stuff that they come in. They found a root cellar not long ago that with wires running to it. So it's neat to see all the history that's behind Chaffee as well.
I'd say, like he said, it's ever changing. There's always something new going on, always something different. It's like I tell people it's like being law enforcement. Everything is different. Every day is different. Every traffic stop is different. So a lot of people that are law enforcement do work here, and that's what they like too, is because they're able to think quickly on their feet and do the same thing that they do out on the streets. So.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate you talking to me. I love asking soldiers why they love being soldiers, and I always get a better response than any other question I get. Thank you.
Thank you.
According to a concept analysis on the National Institutes of Health website, there's an ongoing debate as to whether suicidal resilience should be defined as an ability to regulate suicidal thoughts or a belief system that buffers an individual from suicidal stress. But there's no debate that resiliency training helps soldiers facing adversity, including suicidal risk. And when asked, it was the importance of resiliency training that both Master Sergeant Chatry and Kylea Andrews wanted to close on. How does ACE-SI complement ASSIST? How do they work together?
Well, I always encourage everybody to definitely get ACE-SI because it's right there. It's readily available in our force. But no soldier will leave a good tool behind, or turn their back on a good tool or a good weapon. And ASSIST would be just that next step in that evolution, and especially in depth of subject matter. You go from a one-day course then to a two-day course, and just try to hone your craft and become more comfortable and knowledgeable in that skill set.
Something that we try to push is resiliency. Resiliency helps suicide prevention because suicide prevention is about stopping it before it even gets to having the conversation. Are you planning on killing yourself? Resiliency would be things that you can do to help protect yourself from negative mental health effects, things like self-care, having a strong support system.
How does the resiliency that all soldiers train for, how does that fit into the whole scheme of things as far as...
Well, you have resiliency, but then you have these skills that we've gotten from the study of resiliency, and we try to teach those at the unit level, and they've kind of been beaten into everybody. Let's be honest about it. But resiliency itself, what people don't understand is resiliency is prevention. It's proactive prevention. Again, let's go back to Yellow Ribbon. We try to educate, empower, and provide resources for service members, families, designated individuals for problems that may or may not occur. So we're kind of getting ahead of it. They're educated and they know the resources before a problem arises. Again, that's resiliency, getting ahead of a problem. ACE-SI, it helped empower a soldier to recognize risk factors and warning signs, but then resiliency provides those protective factors to mitigate those risk factors to hopefully nullify or keep them from becoming warning signs. Resiliency has a place in every part of everyday life. It does have a place in any good or bad action. It's there for prevention. It's good and great in response. It's good in intervention, and it has a needed place in postvention.
So what would be your suggestion for keeping the Hunt the Good Stuff fresh and foremost in people's mind and not becoming more of a catchphrase that a unit uses? What would be your suggestion for keeping that training fresh?
Well, learn to have a conversation rather than death by PowerPoint. Learn how to talk somebody through a skill, then teaching the skill and saying this is what it is and this is what you're going to do. Learn to incorporate it as a conversation to be able to use with soldiers, because when the time comes, you're going to have a conversation with somebody. You're not going to stop and have a PowerPoint to rely on. So learn how to incorporate that, and every leader should already know how to do that.
All right. Well, thank you, Kylea. Thank you, Master, and I appreciate you sitting down and talking to me about suicide prevention and the Yellow Ribbon Campaign.
Thanks, Sergeant.
Thank you.
This has been Drill Weekend with the Arkansas Army National Guard. I'm Sergeant First Class Jim Houston. Thank you for joining us. See you next drill.